Welcome back to the Winding Stairs. Today, I have a special conversation in preparation here with Brother Justin Jones and Brother Dennis Yates. These brothers are from Texas, and they are the two brothers behind Masonic Improvement. Brother Justin, Brother Dennis, thank you so much for joining me here on the Winding Stairs.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
For a while, I've been watching your YouTube channel, listening to your interviews and your conversations about how to make good lodges better. I think it's a fantastic approach to try to provide that kind of education that's going to help already good lodges step it up a notch and make sure that they're providing the kind of education and experience that our brothers so deserve. And while I was looking at some of the background that you brothers have, I came across some information about your involvement in the official Grand Lodge Education Committee. Brother Dennis, am I right to say that you were appointed to the Masonic Education Grand Lodge Education Committee?
Yes, sir. I am very blessed to be a part of that committee and excited about the coming year as well. We're ramping up with some new ideas in leadership, and it's a very exciting time for Texas Freemasonry.
That's good. And I love seeing that the dynamic that the two of you have as host and co-host of this program has
junior co-host.
Sorry, has spilled over to your involvement into the whole state education, because you both are collaborating in some of the initiatives that you have for the state. How does that feel? And does the camaraderie spill over to that those responsibilities as well?
Absolutely. I have to keep him out of trouble in person and on the internet all the time. So I can edit him whenever we record something, but in person I have to be there to grab by the collar and yank him, keep him out of trouble.
Nice. We need to put together a patent for the equivalent of a shock collar, but like a shock necktie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like editing on the fly.
We need
the past master's collar. Yeah, for sure. Yes, that, and originally when I went to officer leadership training years ago, there were two brothers who are now my mentors. My biggest mentors, Bradley Kohanke and Chris Williams. They were on the committee, and they taught programs together, and they had the same kind of relationship Justin and I had. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we can bring the same kind of excitement and enthusiasm and fun and learning that they brought to us. And they're well-known authors and just great guys and great brothers. And so it's hopefully we're on that same path to do good things like that.
We're definitely on a path. We'll see where it goes.
We're on a winding staircase. We just don't know if we're going up or down.
No, it's very, very good to see. And if for the brothers who haven't seen or who may not have come across your content before, Masonic Improvement focuses on helping lodges in, not just lodges, but also brothers in their progress, making sure that they're implementing the lessons of Freemasonry into their lodges, into their districts, into their lives. Mm-hmm. And Justin, could you give us a little bit of insight as to when you started working to develop the program?
I think it was probably 2018, maybe late 2017. And I'd been listening to your program for quite a while. And around the same time, that's when the Fort Worth Masonic podcast started really getting underway. And that was really the first Texas podcast that I'd listened to regarding Freemasonry. And I think I was in the same kind of mentality a lot of new podcasters have, or a lot of brothers that want to start podcasts but don't. And that is that there's already a lot of big fish in a little pond, and so they're hesitant to jump in. But I was just like, I'm just going to do it. And at that point, it was probably more for me than anything. I had quite a few, I guess you could say, thoughts or opinions that I really wanted to share and get out there. And I was tired of typing it over and over and over. And so originally what this all started was as just a blog. And I mean, it's moved far beyond that. But originally it was just a blog, and I typed up some essays on just different things that are really important to me. That way, whenever that conversation came up, I could just copy the link and share that instead of writing up a whole small novel on a Facebook message. But it really took off from there.
When I was looking at some of your recent conversations, and I saw that you had the privilege of having Most Worshipful Brad Billings, the current Grand Master. Is he still the Grand Master?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He's the grandest master we have right now.
Nice.
Yes.
And I had read his name, but I had not seen him until I saw the interview that you had with him. And I saw, it struck me like this is a young man. And when I heard his conversation with you, where he expressed the fact that they're trying to deliver Masonic education and Masonic instruction through as many channels as possible in a very methodical and progressive way. But he mentioned video and audio and social media, which is very refreshing to see that a Grand Master recognizes the value, and not just recognizes it, but like puts the work right behind it. What would you say is your relationship or your impact in that sort of dynamic, or that sort of desire for him to use those different channels?
That's a very good question. And it's not something that he and I had talked about. I do know that Dennis is kind of my go-to guy for hooking up these great interviews. And he reached out to Brad. I'm sorry, Most Worshipful Billings. Better edit that. But he has been in a lot of things throughout this year. It's refreshing, like you say. There's some Texas brothers that are really active on TikTok, and he's been on quite a bit of content on there. Definitely putting things out on Facebook on the Grand Lodge Facebook page. And then, of course, there was the, in my opinion, excellent interview that he had with us at the beginning of his term. And so he is definitely present in a lot of different ways. And it's very exciting. I'm not sure what impact we may have had as far as encouraging that, but it's definitely refreshing to see. Now, as far as consistency goes, which I also think is important, he's been very consistent throughout his year, but we'll see down the line in future years how consistent other grandmasters may be with that as well.
But we're on the right track. Can I throw something in there?
Please, yes, of course.
No.
So what Justin didn't speak on, and I will, and I'll get slapped in the back of the head if I have to, is that this year being on the education committee, and Justin and I have helped with rewriting several of our programs. We have a additional Lodge Light program, the All program. We have the Briscoe Workshop, which is both of those are different programs for the new Master Mason and the up and coming, future Lodge leaders. That's done on a more regional kind of local level. That's taught in that manner. So we helped with that process of restructuring that, as well as some other programs, and there some things that are being applied to video. And so our Grand Master is trying to bring Freemasonry to the Mason through this technology to, embrace where we are and what our capabilities are in reaching these brothers. And that's been a fabulous trip to be on this year in helping with all this. In fact, we've still got several presentations we have to finish up before June 30th, before we kick off the officer leadership training. But I wanted to throw that out there that, and this has been, it's been worked on for a while and coming to fruition. Fortunately, our Grand Lodge line, they work together as the board of trustees. And so through the years, they're working on developing these educational opportunities and things like that. And so fortunately, it's been coming to fruition for a while, and now it's finally coming to its head. And I can't say too much more, but there's several things that are going to be coming out that are just out of this world for Blue Lodge Freemasonry. I mean, it's just so awesome and exciting. And to Justin's point, I think that they probably will be continued because it was all of the trustees that were involved in helping get it all approved and get it all started.
I thought you said you couldn't say too much more. About 10 minutes ago.
I thought I kept it short. Watch it, Junior.
Okay.
I would think you'd be excited about the technology being a millennial and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad that you mentioned the fact that the Grand Master and the officer line and the previous Grand Master, they had been working on these kinds of initiatives for a while. Mm-hmm. It is a dynamic that I think it's very important for Grand Lodges to embrace, but also in the microcosm for lodges, individual lodges to adopt that approach where you're not having the mentality that I describe as the my year mentality, mm-hmm. but having a mentality of our lodge mentality.
Yes.
And so it's good to make that distinction. And I encourage brothers to think about that. If you are in the progressive line and you expect to be master of the lodge at, in a few years, make sure that all of these brothers that are above you, that you're all in synchronicity, that you're all in accord with whatever the goal is going to be for the lodge moving forward. Because there's nothing worse than having a prepotent, individual leading a lodge and wanting to, like we say, throw the house out the window. Mm-hmm. And then the next year, it all dissipates into nothingness. Yeah. It's better when you have that marked rhythm where everybody is rowing in unison.
Yes.
Any program, I don't care how good it is, can't really gain traction within 1 year. That's its infancy. It takes a multi-year approach. And I mean, for any program, even if it seems like it has a good first year, for it to really get going, it has to have consistency and time and service. And so if your officer lineup is not on board, if you don't have the same mentality and similar goals and a willingness to continue on programs that you all agree are good, then it's almost like you wasted a year in the East. Yep. Because if your program dies as soon as you leave the East, it's never going to accomplish anything. And you do see what you're describing to an extent, excuse me, in some places where the next person in leadership, and I'm being very careful to not specify where I'm talking about, but you see the next person in leadership has their own ideas and their own program, and it has a different name, but it's very similar to other programs that came before it. But this is my program. This is my year. And nothing ever gains traction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. It's your show.
No, I was just going to say that the scope has to be long-term. Yeah. And then all the steps between here and there.
Yeah. Somewhere along the way, we in Freemasonry, we left out the vision of Freemasonry. And vision is what it's all about. And what both of you guys have been describing is succession planning. And, if the most heartbreaking thing when I became master of my lodge was one of my mentors saying, you only have 1 year. That's all you got. So make it count. But you only got 1 year. That's your year. And it's like, well, man, if everything I'm doing is for nothing, why am I doing this?
Yep.
So fortunately, though, our lodge is, we actually pay to send our guys to the officer leadership training. So they learn about the succession planning, and they learn all that along with us being able to help mentor them. And so it's a little bit more effective. But so many times you see lodges just, they have all the things you need for an awesome lodge. And yet they have that one crippling disease that holds them back from greatness. Yep. It's so sad, but all this can be overcome, all of it can.
And it's not an outlandish claim. It's not so out of left field that people should be surprised. This is putting the plans upon the trestle board. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. We're talking about one edifice. We're talking about one plan in unison, and every individual builder within that gremio, within that lodge, needs to work in unison to make sure that final vision that's upon the trestle board is materialized. And of course, we give lip service to put your plans on the trestle board, but that's how this looks. It means I'm not taking claim for what I did in my year. It's okay. Look what I am doing for my lodge day in and day out. Mm-hmm. Now
I would say,
what we're doing. Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, I would also say that I always like this analogy. If you take any large multi-million-dollar company or even a small mom and pop store, and if you change the leadership every year, that the company's doomed. Yeah. So like you change the president of a multi-million-dollar year, godly. If you change the president of a multi-million-dollar company every year, and the vice president and all the leadership, you just change them every year, mm-hmm. It'd be gone. It wouldn't. It would have no longevity. Yep. And yet that's what we do. We do that every year. And
look at our country.
The Illuminati intervened.
Yeah, they intervened.
They saw it coming.
Yeah, they saw it. But that's why it's important to have this longevity plan, this succession plan, because you are going to be changing leadership. And if everyone's on the same page, and if you're just continuing what your predecessors did before you, understanding that you're not doing this for yourself. Leadership should be a servant position, and you are continuing what the lodge as a whole has sat down and agreed that this is important to them, and this is the direction we want to take the lodge.
Now, talking about the direction of the lodge, considering that your podcast is called Masonic Improvement, what kind of improvements have you seen either within your lodge or within lodges that you have influenced through your teachings?
Sure. Dennis, you'll start?
Oh, it would take up the whole show.
Nice.
Okay. All right.
No, I will. Just real quick. In our lodge before I went to officer leadership training, we didn't do that. It was always, they're out there. If you want to go, you can go. If you don't, you don't. And we were giving, in Texas, we have an endowed membership program to where you can purchase an endowment for a certain amount of money, and it goes into a fund with Grand Lodge, and then it pays dividends to the lodge every year. Okay. And it's probably not new to other jurisdictions, but so in a lot of the lodges, they will give that as a gift to the past master. It's like, oh my gosh, don't kill your lodge like that. He's still a dues paying member. He's contributing. Let him keep paying dues. But instead, in my year, we chose to provide the officer leadership training instead to 2 of the up and coming officers. So now we invest in those every year, and it's been carried on, thank goodness, through the succession planning. Every master since me has done the same thing. And so with that, we've been building upon our original structure, and now we are one of the premier lodges in South Texas, hands down. And that's not just me being biased. It really isn't.
What are like 3 of them?
What are the odds? Yeah, 3 of them in yeah. I have 6 in my district, youngster.
Okay.
I have a big district.
Is it a member of the premier lodge in Goliad, Texas?
It is the premier lodge in Goliad, Texas. But really, it does work. But you have to be consistent, and it has to be a long-term goal that you'll stick with, or it won't.
The Winding Stairs is made possible by FreemasonryArt.com, the Masonic art store where I share the creations that I make. I recently created a Masonic pin display apron where you can proudly show all the pins in your collection. Every pin tells a story. It reminds you of that day where you met some brothers, or that day when you had an incredible initiatic experience. If you have your pins confined to the darkness of a drawer, bring them from darkness to light by proudly displaying them in one of our Masonic pin display aprons. To see them and place an order today, go to freemasonryart.com.
I would say that a lot of the improvements that I have seen in my travels, really the kind of almost the low-hanging fruit, and I say that, but it's a heck of a battle, is the financial victories that I've seen both in my lodge and other lodges where I may or may not have had some influence, but just seeing that these lodges realizing that they're not financially viable. And I know this is a volunteer organization, but I encourage all brothers to approach your lodge like a business, because it's running like a business, and it will go under like a business if you don't take care of it. And so, for example, like we raised the dues at my lodge. We doubled them actually the previous year, and it has been there was quite a bit of weeping and gnashing of teeth, right? Anytime we talk about charging more, but the value is there. Like it's in our bank account. We could see it. And so it's a tangible benefit that had very quick results. Likewise, we also increased our endowments. However, other than that, just lodges just generally taking more pride in their building. The building is very important, and too many Masonic lodges have allowed the lack of maintenance and the lack of attention to detail to build up to the point where many lodges probably had the opposite effect that they should. I think what a non-Mason going into a lodge building should be struck by a certain sense of awe, and but many lodges now kind of have the opposite, where it's almost like a sense of yuck. And so
they were called temples for a reason.
Yeah. And I think in some states they still are. But just seeing in general, just brothers, it could be small, like we're going to repaint the walls or we're going to retile the floor, baby steps, and any momentum towards improvement is positive momentum, even if it's small and slow.
That's a great point. The reason we have the pillar of beauty is not just to sit pretty there. Mm-hmm. It is intended to really elicit that sense of wonder and that sense of awe, in people. Now, what would you say is something that, and I'll give you the option to answer this however you see fit. What is not working for Texas, or what is really working for Texas? So is there something that you have been doing for a long time that hasn't been yielding the fruit that you expect and thereby has gone by the wayside, or is being phased out? Or is there something that has been implemented for the state that you feel excited about because it is working, or at least is very promising?
So here's my thoughts. Just kind of a team huddle real quick. Dennis, since you're the district deputy, I will talk about the lack, and you could talk about the positive. That way you're saying nice things. Like that way it sounds good, right? Nothing can come back.
Right. Thank you.
Great team player.
I don't think there's anything bad about Texas anyway.
Perfect. That's perfect.
There you go.
Great job. No, I think Texas has a lot of great things going for it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love Texas Freemasonry. There are some things that are working against it, I suppose you could say. And I'm seeing momentum in many of these fields to improve it. However, I would say that this is not strictly a Texas issue, and that is the mentality that this is the way we've always done things. And so that's I think lots of jurisdictions have to contend with that. And so this mentality that this is the way we've always done it. And this applies to a lot of things. I touched earlier on finances. There are a lot of lodges that will probably be demising or merging very soon. And in many cases, probably completely avoidable if they had realized that, or if they had taken action to take care of themselves financially. Excuse me one second.
So, Dennis, I can see what Justin says, that mentality of, oh, that's how we've always done it. That, of course, can be insidious. That can be something that erodes at the base. It can diminish some of the enthusiasm of the people that are coming in, young to the fraternity, that are charged with the vigor necessary to do things. On the polar opposite of that, how are you able to, from these positions of leadership and positions of influence when it comes to Masonic education and the progress of the district, what things have you seen that are working in order to counteract whatever resistance you may be facing from that kind of mentality?
Well, what we've seen the biggest increase of in the past few years is activities like festive boards, a higher level social activity where men can get together and meet and speak on an intellectual standpoint. That's because face it, most of your Texas lodges are rural, and I'm sure it's the same way in Florida. I used to live there for a little while, and I know, most of your lodges are rural, and that kind of gets put to the side. But it's starting to come around, and it's starting to come around even in rural areas as well. And so with that emphasis on the higher level of education and social aspirations in how you meet, I think it's been a strong point in bringing the Freemasonry that a lot of the younger generation is starting to look for, and we're really starting to capitalize on that now. Now we have brothers like Justin and I go around, and along with many other very, very more capable brothers in our state, go around and we give presentations to lodges and stuff during their meetings and during stated meetings even. And then they have different programs on the outside of the stated meetings where we have those presentations, and we just share some stuff. And guys are getting it; they dig it, and so, and a lot of times it's us sharing that history. Everybody feels like that's not how we've always done it because they want to hold on to the nature of Freemasonry, the history of Freemasonry. Well, you have to remind them sometimes that was the nature of Freemasonry when we started. And so if we continue to develop our programs with the mindset of the Good Shepherd and nurture our history while encouraging the new influx of education, then we're going to be fine. And we're gonna shrink a little bit in lodges because the infrastructure is just too big. But we're going to get better in Freemasonry. And so that's the positive that I see. And we're utilizing technology to do that as well, just like what we're doing here today. You are one of the kings of podcasts. And so all too well that technology is being utilized, has been, and is successfully showing results for our lodges and for our brothers, especially the ones that are out there that feel like they lost what they were looking for in lodge. A lot of times they're coming back to lodge because they hear you talking and they say, you know what, maybe there is that Juan out there in my lodge and I can find him and we can strike up a conversation. They go back. We've heard that a few times,
So especially in Texas, you have a bunch of Juans down there.
If you're,
we got a lot of Juans.
Juan, if you're a king of Masonic podcasts, I have a gesture that you could borrow for a while.
Oh, yeah.
One for your throne room.
Can you feel the love?
I did want to touch on it if we have the time.
Yes, please.
There's one other thing that I wanted to add as far as probably like a weakness, and that is our West Gate process here in Texas. There are a lot of lodges that are doing it right, and I wouldn't say it's consistently the same approach, but it's generally the same approach. I think that we're as a jurisdiction probably experimenting with some different approaches right now, but we in general we see a new member or a new potential member, and we get excited, and there's often a sense of urgency that we manufacture ourselves, right? We manufacture a sense of urgency and rush him through the petitioning process, and before you know it, you have if you're lucky, a master mason that he may just drop off as an EA. You never know because you rushed him through it. But we have a lot of master masons that maybe didn't know what they were getting into, or maybe aren't a good fit for their particular lodge, or maybe even the fraternity, but we didn't really vet them at any time.
That sense of urgency is not misplaced, because you have the financial constraints that we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. And if you put that in a graph, you see the trajectory of the graph. So there is a sense of urgency to bring in men to basically be a part of the fraternity. However, where I think there is significant room for improvement is in the following. If you don't have enough people petitioning so that you can be discerning and what do you call that? Discriminating in the positive sense of the word, where you're picking the choice candidates to move forward, and those who perhaps are not measuring up in their commitment or in their real interest, or they don't measure in some way, then you're not feeling pressure to bring them in. Perhaps they need more formation. They need more time outside of the fraternity to mature in some areas before they're considered to be a good fit. But if we don't have choice, where we just have one or two men showing up periodically, then that sense of urgency betrays us, because then we have to admit them because there's nobody else petitioning. Yeah. And here's where brothers like you come in. If you are not just locally going out and making a presence and showing by example what Masonry is about, but virtually we're showing the world, okay, this is what brotherly love looks like. This is what fellowship looks like. This is what education and Masonry looks like. Then perhaps having a higher influx of interest will give you that permission to just choose the cream.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let me just, I'll be real quick.
Go ahead.
There's a saying that another brother on my show, I don't know how to, it wasn't his quote. He attributed it to someone else and I can't recall who. I'm sure he'll forgive me, but the quote was basically, more harm has been done to the fraternity with white balls than with black cubes. And that really resonated very strongly with me because I have personally seen lodges that have almost been completely destroyed. Healthy lodges within a matter of years, almost completely destroyed by 1-2 men that were made Masons. Because of that enthusiasm and that excitement to get some new blood into their lodge. So I don't know what the process needs to look like for every lodge in every jurisdiction, but I know that this current, well, as an example, I have sat in a lodge before. It was a practice night. A guy walked in off the street that nobody knew, and he left 15 minutes later with a petition with all the signatures that he needed. I know that doesn't work, right? I know I can't tell you what works best, but I can tell you what doesn't work, and that doesn't work.
I'd like to bring the point of one of my favorite lodges and the way they do it. And he actually was one of our influences in the podcast as well. Rip Moore. He was the secretary of Fort Worth 148. He's one of our past grand orators, and they have a process that works. And now, first of all, let me rewind. Okay, so the other day we were interviewing a good friend of ours and chairman of the membership committee for Grand Lodge, Kyle Walquist, and he was talking and stressing the importance of effective web marketing and effectiveness in membership. So you have to have a good web presence and good digital footprint, and you have to manage it properly, because all the free stuff, it's free because it's rented. It's not yours. You need to have your own website as your own property. That way you can purposefully funnel people into your lodge. And then you have, okay, so Fort Worth 148, they've had this for quite a while. They've had this process going on, and their vetting process is a 6-month period. And they have people come through, and they can only go, they go through this process of showing up at lodge once a week to just discuss topics and do different things. And so they'll have these groups of people, like anywhere from 5 to 10 people at a time, going through the pipeline. And then at the other end, in 6 months, they've decided if they're going to give them a petition to come into the lodge or not. And that's their process. And, talk about know somebody and being able to sign that petition. That is a process. And now, and just real quick, the way that Kyle does it at his lodge is another very awesome way. They have a structure to where they have a social night every month. And that's when they all go out to a different place to eat, drink, and discuss whatever they want to discuss. And that's where they invite their people who are interested to meet them. They never invite them to the lodge.
Waco does something very similar too.
Yeah, they invite them out to dinner, and they just do that for several times and get to know them under libations and under discussion, and really get to know that person before they ever invite them to the lodge and even talk about a petition.
Well, not only does it give you a chance
those are two very successful ways to vet.
But not only does it give you a chance to get to know the person, but say you invite them to events at the lodge. Maybe your expectations are that they should at least come to the dinner before the meeting and get to know the brothers.
Very minimum, yes.
Sure, I guess it's kind of minimum, but even if everybody likes the person, if he can never make it, if there's always some scheduling conflict or something,
yes, then
the lodge is not going to be able to provide value to this person because he'll never be at a meeting. And so it might not be, no, you're not Masonic material. It may be, hey, you might check out this lodge. This is probably more suitable for what you're looking for or your schedule or something like that. It allows you to avoid problems like that. Because even if you could schedule an EA degree for this guy, he may never be able to practice. He may never have time.
And it may be a matter of time. It doesn't mean we're denying this man a petition because he is just not worthy. Mm-hmm. Maybe he is worthy and he is well qualified, but the conditions aren't right at this very moment for him to join the fraternity or join our lodge. And I'll have to echo what you brothers have said. In Orange Blossom Lodge here in sunny Kissimmee, Florida, which you're all welcome to come and visit.
Road trip.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to do a double. I need to go down there. I got to go see Brother Robert Marshall up there in Waco.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go see
another very close friend of ours.
Yes, and you had another friend of mine up in the show, Joshua Finley, amazing brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's in my Scottish Rite Valley with me.
Yeah.
And Knights of St. Andrew. Yes.
That's true. Send him my love when you see him.
I will.
And I have a lot of brothers in Texas that I'm, very, very close with. But the point is that here in Orange Blossom Lodge, our approach is, okay, you're interested, then come over to the dinner. Let's sit together. And we don't give them a petition for months. They come into the lodge, they sit, eat with us in dinner, and then we say goodbye, and then we have our meeting. Mm-hmm. There's one aspect that I wanted to emphasize about that approach. Whenever that petition is being read in lodge, let's say the gentleman's name is Marcus Robertson. If you don't know who Marcus Robertson is, there should be no ball. There shouldn't be a white ball going in there. You don't know this person. Mm-hmm. So, and if you can't put a face to a name, perhaps let's say that gives you enough time. Let's say you sit with this gentleman and you get to ask questions and they make an off-color joke that kind of like doesn't settle right with you.
Yes.
Then maybe that motivates you to be part of their investigative committee. Make sure that you get to the bottom of it and make sure that this individual is just joking like you would joke with me, or anybody else. But you want to tease that and make sure, okay, is this person really a good candidate to be in our lodge? But how many times does a petition get read in lodge and you turn to your brother, it's like, who's that? Who was it? Mm-hmm. You should be able to know. Oh, that's this guy, the one that came over to the dinner and the one that we were joking that other day. Oh, perfect. Then you vote him in. So, yes. but I appreciate that because I think that's a very good approach to having the West Gate properly attended to.
Guarded, yes. And that's another positive for Texas Freemasonry right now is we have several brothers that are traveling around the state. Aaron Tazinski, he'll be on the show at some point. But he travels around and teaches about background checks and what's lawful and what's not. And also, just different points of contact throughout the investigation process. And so that's another positive is that we're starting to see the necessity of guarding the West Gate. And to the extent that we have brothers that are traveling around by invitation from lodges trying to, learn this process. So that, I would like to put that plug in there because it's another that's another positive that we're working on right now.
That's great. It is definitely, it's great to see that your Masonic Improvement is not limited to what you put out in the context of the podcast. It also is part of what you're doing in your work, in your good work, your square work in your district. So, brethren, I really appreciate you taking the time. We had a conversation that's going to air in your show. Brothers, for those of you watching the Winding Stairs or listening, I encourage you to check out the episode where I come over. They were gracious enough to invite me over to Masonic Improvement, and we had an amazing conversation where we talk about a lot of different elements related to applying the lessons of Masonry. They even share some insights into their preference of how to get brothers to do work and bring it before the members of the lodge in order for them to progress and also contribute to the education of the lodges as they do so.
Yes.
So Justin and Dennis, thank you so very much for your time. I assume that you have a hub where you can direct brothers if they want to learn more about Masonic Improvement. Could you please share that with them now?
Absolutely. We do have a website, masonicimprovement.com. It has a few blog posts, contact information. It's a great start. We also have our Facebook page, Masonic Improvement. You can find us on YouTube. We also upload everything into podcast. So if you go to your favorite podcast provider and look at Masonic Improvement, you can find us there as well. Am I missing anything, Dennis?
No, that's about it. We're pretty easily accessible.
Yeah,
we're easy. We're not cheap, but we're easy.
That's how it is. Brothers,
see what I got to deal with.
Well, it was a delight to have you on the show. Thank you so very much. And to the brothers listening, thank you so very much. I also wanted to say thank you to all our supporters on Patreon for making sure that these interactions are possible. Is your contributions that make sure that we have the right microphone, the right camera, the right lights, and everything in order to make this happen. So if it sounds interesting to you, you're not part of the support network that we have on Patreon, make sure to go to patreon.com/Juan Sepulveda, and you get early ad-free access to our shows. You get some behind the scenes, and you get input into what kind of conversations we're going to have in the future. So check it out on the link here on the show. And as always, thank you so much, brothers, for coming over. And for you, brothers,
it's our pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
I'm so happy for you to be here with me. And to the brothers at home, thank you so much for being a part of this journey. And I'll see you next time as we continue our journey up the Winding Stairs.